They had his name. They had his description. Multiple people called it in. His own girlfriend reported him. And yet, Ted Bundy kept killing for 4 more years. This is not the story of a monster who was impossible to catch. This is the story of a broken system, exhausted detectives, and the handful of investigators who refused to give up, even when everything was working against them. January 1974, Seattle, Washington. A 21-year-old woman named Linda Ann Healy vanishes from her basement bedroom. Her bed is neatly made. Her nightgown is folded. There are no signs of a struggle. She is simply gone. Within the next 8 months, at least 8 more young women disappear across Washington state and Oregon. All of them young. All of them students. All of them brunette with hair parted down the middle. And not a single body has been found. For the detectives assigned to these cases, this created an almost impossible problem. Without physical evidence, without a crime scene, there was almost nothing to work with. No cause of death, no confirmed crime, just women who had vanished into thin air. But there was something else making this investigation nearly impossible, something that had nothing to do with the killer himself. In 1974, there was no national database for missing persons, no digital system linking cases across county lines, let alone across state lines. A detective working a disappearance in Seattle had absolutely no way of knowing that a detective 3 states away was seeing the exact same pattern. Serial killers in this era didn't just hunt people, they hunted in the gaps between jurisdictions, and they were devastatingly effective at it. Detective Robert Keppel of the King County Police was one of the first investigators to sense that something far larger was happening. The number of similar disappearances in such a concentrated window felt less like coincidence and more like a deliberate campaign. But without evidence, without a body, there was almost nothing he could do. And the killer knew that. July 14th, 1974, Lake Sammamish State Park, Washington. It is a hot Sunday afternoon. Thousands of people are enjoying the park, families, couples, students, and in broad daylight, in front of witnesses, a young man approaches women one by one. He is well dressed. He has his arm in a sling. He is charming and polite. He introduces himself simply as Ted. He says he needs help with his sailboat. 2 women leave with him that afternoon. Neither one ever comes home. What followed was something investigators would later describe as a turning point. Not because of what they found at the scene, but because of what witnesses remembered about the man they had seen. Multiple people gave strikingly similar descriptions. Same name, same sling, same confident, easy smile. A composite sketch was released. Tips flooded the tip line by the thousands. And here is the part of this story that is almost too painful to say out loud. Among those thousands of tips, buried somewhere in the pile, was the name Ted Bundy, submitted not once, not twice, but multiple times, by different people who knew him personally. His own girlfriend called it in. A woman from his college called it in. Detectives noted the name. They tracked him down. They interviewed him. He was polite, articulate, handsome. He was a law student. He volunteered at a crisis hotline. He shook hands and looked investigators in the eye. And he was cleared. Now, before you ask how that was possible, understand this. The detectives working this case were drowning. Over 3,000 tips had come in, and they had almost no resources to properly investigate each one. No computers, no databases. Physical files stacked floor to ceiling. Bundy understood the system better than almost anyone. He knew exactly how to walk through the cracks. But the detectives never stopped working. August 16th, 1975, Salt Lake City, Utah. It is late at night. Highway Patrol Officer Bob Hayward is parked in a quiet residential neighborhood when he notices a Volkswagen Beetle moving slowly through the streets with its headlights off. Something feels wrong. He watches the car. The car speeds up as it passes him. Hayward pulls out and follows. The Beetle turns into a gas station, and then the moment Hayward switches on his lights, it runs. He pulls the car over. The driver steps out. He is calm, cooperative, almost relaxed. He gives his name without hesitation: Ted Bundy. Hayward looks into the passenger seat. What he sees stops him cold: a pantyhose mask, a crowbar, handcuffs, torn strips of cloth. Bundy has an explanation for every single item: casual, reasonable, unbothered. Hayward doesn't believe a word of it. He arrests Bundy on suspicion of burglary, a minor charge. Almost nothing, but it puts Ted Bundy into the system for the first time, and that changes everything. Detectives in Salt Lake City begin connecting Bundy to a string of local kidnappings, and then to the murder of a teenage girl named Carol Durant, who had done something almost no one else had managed to do. She had survived him. Months earlier, Bundy had approached Durant in a shopping mall, pretending to be a police officer. He lured her into his car. He attacked her, but she fought back hard enough to escape. When detectives brought her in to look at a lineup, she identified Ted Bundy without a single moment of hesitation. For the first time, investigators had him on something real, but the full picture, the true scale of what Bundy had done across multiple states, still wasn't clear. That would require one more detective, a man who decided that geography was not going to be his excuse. Detective Jerry Thompson of Salt Lake City becomes one of the most important and least celebrated figures in this entire case. After Bundy's arrest, Thompson does something that sounds simple but was anything but. He picks up the phone. He starts calling detectives in Washington, in Oregon, in Colorado. He compares notes. He shares details. He asks questions no one had thought to ask across state lines before. Remember, this is the mid-1970s. There is no email, no shared digital case files, no national database. This kind of interstate detective work had to be done almost entirely through phone calls and physical mail. It was slow, grinding, unglamorous work. Thompson requests that Bundy's Volkswagen Beetle be forensically examined. What the examination reveals is chilling. Hair evidence found inside the car matches victims from multiple states. Slowly, painstakingly, the true map of Ted Bundy's crimes begins to take shape. Back in Washington, Detective Robert Keppel, who had been quietly hunting this case for over a year, finally receives confirmation of what he had long feared. The man behind the Lake Sammamish disappearances and the man currently sitting in a Utah jail cell were the same person. The case that had seemed impossible to crack because it stretched invisibly across state lines was finally coming together. Not because of a dramatic breakthrough, not because of advanced technology, because a small group of detectives decided that jurisdiction didn't matter more than justice. What followed is the part of the story most people know. Bundy escaped custody twice. The first time, he jumped from a second-floor courthouse library window in Aspen, Colorado, and disappeared into the mountains for 6 days before being recaptured. The second time, and this one is almost unbelievable, he spent weeks quietly loosening a ceiling panel in his jail cell. He lost 20 pounds so he could fit through the gap. And then one night, he simply crawled through the ceiling, dropped into a jailer's apartment, put on civilian clothes, and walked out the front door. He was not discovered missing for nearly 15 hours. He killed again, in Florida, brutally, the worst attacks of his entire career. And yet, even after 2 escapes, even after more deaths, it was methodical police work that finally ended it. February 15, 1978, Tallahassee, Florida. A patrol officer named David Lee is on duty when he spots a vehicle driving erratically at 1 in the morning. He pulls it over. The driver gives a fake name. But when Lee runs the plates, they come back stolen. He places the driver under arrest. Fingerprints are taken. They match Ted Bundy, the man who had slipped through thousands of tips, who had charmed his way past investigators, who had escaped from 2 separate jails, who had killed across at least 4 states over 4 years. He was stopped, in the end, by a routine traffic stop, by an officer who trusted his instincts, by the same kind of unglamorous, methodical police work that had been building the case against him all along. Ted Bundy was convicted of murder and executed on January 24, 1989. He confessed to 30 killings. Investigators believe the true number is higher,